So we've got breaking news from the Middle East, and this is significant. Moments ago, the Israeli military saying that it conducted a strike against senior Hamas leadership. Multiple explosions reported not in Gaza, but in the capital city of Doha in Qatar. In Tel Aviv, Greg Palkot's watching that story. And Greg, it's early. What have you learned from there? Hello.
Well, Bill, this war just stepped up by one more step. In the past half hour or so, we have gotten reports that for the very first time, Israel has struck Doha, Qatar, aiming at the Hamas leadership there. Remember, Qatar is one of the two mediating countries, Qatar and Egypt, trying to come up with an end to this war. And now Israel has struck out at the country, but not the country itself, struck out at Hamas leadership, which away from Gaza uses Qatar as a base of operation. And according to Israeli television, and we do not have this confirmed, but Israeli media claims that 5 of the top leaders of Hamas at their headquarters was targeted by an Israeli, an IDF airstrike, and they were killed. Again, no confirmation of this, but it's quite a blow. I mean, they justify it in their own statement, saying that these individuals were for years members of the leadership and leading the terror operations, directly responsible for, in the words of Israel, the brutal October 7th massacre, and have been orchestrating and managing the war against the state of Israel. But Bill, I mean, we have to also understand it's these individuals that are involved in negotiations to try to end the war, that they are talking to the other side. They are talking to the United States. They are in a safe country specifically for that reason. We have a note from Trey, Yingst, who spoke to the officials in Qatar, and they condemn in the strongest terms the cowardly Israeli attack. That's their words, quoted by Trey from Qatar. The ministry affirms security agencies, civil defense, and authorities will immediately begin to respond. So Qatar, as you can imagine, not too pleased by this. Hamas, not too pleased by this. Of course, this comes, Bill, at a very crucial time. There is yet another proposal for a ceasefire, a hostage handover, Palestinian prisoner exchange coming from the Trump administration. And this has got to put paid to that right now, Bill.
Okay, so Greg, stand by with us in Tel Aviv. Trey Yingst joins us live. He's covering the war in Ukraine. Live in the capital city of Kyiv. And Trey, the thing that's critical about the leadership for Hamas operating out of Qatar and not Gaza City is that they were living big lives. And that's really been one of the backstories on this war ever since Israel went back into Gaza. Your reaction now and what it could mean for this war if indeed they have been taken out in Doha today.
Yeah, Bill, Fox News can confirm that the Israelis were behind these strikes targeting the Qatari capital of Doha, specifically the Hamas leadership, Khalil Ali and Zahir Jabarin. We're talking about 2 out of 5 of the top Hamas leaders that are currently in Doha. And I want to take you through the tick-tock of how these individuals came to power in Qatar, leading the Hamas political bureau from hundreds of miles away from Gaza. This all started last summer when Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas, was killed by the Israelis in the Iranian capital of Tehran. After that took place, Hamas consolidated their power in Qatar to continue leading operations inside Gaza and the West Bank. And according to initial reports, Khalil al-Hayya and Zahir Jabarin were the 2 targets behind the Israeli strikes today in Doha. And again, the Qataris are immediately coming out and condemning these strikes against their territory. The country's spokesman for the foreign minister says the state of Qatar condemns in the strongest terms the cowardly Israeli attack targeting the residential headquarters of several members of the Hamas political bureau in the Qatari capital of Doha. This is very significant, Bill, because when we step back from this, These were the individuals at the negotiating table in these ongoing conversations to try and get the remaining 48 hostages out of Gaza. And now there are major questions about who will lead those negotiations.
And Greg, this is Dana. I wonder about the element of surprise here, because we woke up this morning to news that Bibi Netanyahu and the Israeli government have told Gaza to evacuate. And so that operation looks like it's happening. And in the meantime, you have the Hamas leaders who have been kind of sitting pretty there in Qatar. And the element of surprise here could have been something because they had their eye off the ball.
Absolutely. Yeah. We were sitting here in our bureau, and all of a sudden we're seeing smoke on the horizon from a shot in Doha. Utter surprise about what was going on, opening up another front. Remember, Israel has never struck Doha, has never struck Qatar. Qatar is a safe ground, a neutral ground, a mediating ground for this whole operation, and really one of the key players in any possibility that a peaceful resolution of this crisis could come out. As Trey noted, yes, these individuals were orchestrating a lot of the bad stuff going on in Gaza, but they were also the public face of Hamas, and they were dealing with Egypt and Qatar and Steve Witkoff and other individuals. To kill them basically says from Israel that they've had it with any kind of negotiations. Already in the past day or so, we've heard words that Gaza City must be completely evacuated. They're throwing in the dice on this. It looks like it's full steam ahead
talk
for
about the American
full-scale
presence in
war
Qatar.
by Israel. Back to you.
Okay. All right, gentlemen. Thank you. Greg Palkot and Trey Yingst both working that story. I think it's worth pointing out that the video we're watching right there is in Qatar. It's daylight still there. And Israeli media in some corners are reporting that President Trump gave his approval for this hit. And if you remember, on Sunday en route to the U.S. Open, he put out one of these warnings on Truth Social about Hamas and the Israeli government accepting the terms. Otherwise, you'll find out soon what happens, just to paraphrase what that message was on Sunday. So it is all happening now. The fallout from this is really yet to be determined, but we'll stay on it and want to bring that to you as we continue now. Thank you, Trey. Thank you, Greg. Back to you, gentlemen.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.